much to Skip Bayless' chagrin, Mike McCarthy is going to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys next season in 2022. Skip Bayless, the guy that you see with the game plan folded up, got his arms folded up, looking at the Jumbotron, like everybody else. Skip, I told you, it's entertainment. Even the head coach is not watching the game from the field. He's looking up at the Jumbotron. That's going to be your coach next season. You know why? Because Jerry, what'd you call it? What's his name, Skip? Gerald Wayne Jones, a.k.a. Jerry Jones Jr. Hand-picked it. Invited a man to stay at his big old mansion. They had beer and nachos. It went so well. Gerald Wayne Jr. the third, I guess, Jerry Jr.'s son, said, Dad, what the hell are you waiting on? You like him? He's everything that you want in a head coach. Just sign the man. And that's what happened. So he's Jerry's hand-picked guy. Skip, he's not going to challenge Jerry on anything. He's never going to say, well, Jerry, I think we should do this instead of that. I think we should do that instead of this. He has no say. He's head coach and title only. He has no say over the final 53. He has no say in the draft. He has no say in free agency. So the practice schedule, what? He sets the practice schedule, but if Jerry says, no, I think we should practice at 1:15 instead of 2:15, what time do you think they're going to practice, Skip? So for me, unfortunately for you, this is what you have to look forward to next year. And I got a quote, Skip. Jerry Jones says, he's a difference maker, and that should be recognized. Did he not say that? You lost your mind when he said that. You like, Jerry, what are you doing? He's not a difference maker. He's not to be recognized. He's costing us. And we talked about this. And everybody said, oh, no, they'll get that big. Shannon, it's only the second week of the season. What are you talking about? That's what you do. You work out the kinks, the bugs, and everything. Okay, that kinks and the bugs that you had early in the season, guess what? It reared its head in a playoff game and possibly cost you an opportunity to advance. So Skip Bayless, Mike McCarthy is going to be your head coach. And he said, he listed the thing. Skip, I know how to win playoff games. I've won a championship. You did. Technically, Skip, theoretically, he's correct. But he did benefit from a quarterback that's on the 100th anniversary team. And I don't know what anniversary team is coming out next, but he's going to have another quarterback that played the lion's share of his career under Mike McCarthy on that team. So until you do it without those two generational Hall of Fame great quarterbacks, you're going to leave people to question, how good a head coach is Mike McCarthy? And I think my good friend Skip Bayless is starting to question that already.
Your good friend Skip Bayless has already called for this man's job. Your sort of good friend Skip Bayless, after this week, after you've shamed me for all these days, hit bottom yesterday as a fan. And I realized that you are just rooting for Mike McCarthy to be back because you know it will go from bad to worse next year. Because you know he got exposed this year. He's a fraud. He's an imposter. He's nothing but a bystander. He's a spectator during games. He adds little to nothing to the final product that should be a Cowboy team advancing to play GOAT at GOAT this Sunday, and unfortunately that did not happen. And this man, Mike McCarthy, was reduced yesterday to pathetically having to defend himself after they did win the division, or maybe you say they just won it by default. But he was reduced to defending himself by saying, I know how to win. I know how to win playoff games. I know how to win championships. And Shannon, as soon as I read these quotes last night, it hit me right between the eyes. Could you ever have imagined Thomas Wade Landry, ever having to say that to the media? I know how to win. We just knew you knew how to win because you won. Can you imagine the great Jimmy Johnson ever being reduced to telling the Dallas-Fort Worth media, I know how to win? Yeah, do you ever? And I'm not sure Mike McCarthy ever knew how to win because it has now come painfully clear to me he was nothing but a product of first Brett Favre and then more so Aaron Rodgers. And Mike came with a playoff record when he came to Dallas of 18-10. That's pretty good. My man Jason Garrett left 2-3 in the playoffs. I had 10 years of 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. Jason was 2-3 in the postseason. So obviously, if you tell me I have a man who's 18-10 in the postseason, a made man with a Super Bowl ring on his finger, I'm happy days are here again. I'm hallelujah, thank you, God, for Mike McCarthy. That's why I blessed him. That's why I jumped in on Undisputed with both feet on Mike McCarthy, because I got blinded by the Super Bowl ring. He's a made man because he was made by Brett Favre and made even more so by Aaron Rodgers. And Shannon, the evidence screams, fire him, and fire him again. Because I look at what happened this year. They jump out to a 6-1 record, 6-1. Their most impressive game of the year was the opening Thursday night at GOAT, at Tampa Bay. Dak was great, but he had played no snaps in the preseason, hadn't even played in a preseason scrimmage. There was no pressure, no expectation, and he threw for 403, and they took it to the wire at Tampa. And then they took their coach off the game-managing, clock-managing hook at Chargers because he completely botched it. As usual, he was overmatched, he was overwhelmed, and it took a 56-yard field goal to save the season and save him from utter humiliation and media annihilation after that game. And yet, they get to play Philly, they get to play the Giants, they got to play Carolina, who got exposed later in the season. That was Sam Darnold's Carolina. And they got to 6-1. Then what happened down the stretch? They closed 6-5. And what happened against your Denver Broncos at home? They fell behind 30-0 before losing 30-16. 30-0 early in the fourth quarter. What happened against the Raiders on Thanksgiving? Probably my greatest humiliation of the year was Raiders on Turkey Day at Jerry World on the biggest stage in the sport this side of the Super Bowl. And my team fell behind to the Raiders 17-6 and 24-13 before rallying, taking it to overtime, and, of course, losing the game. What happened against Arizona? What happened? They fall behind 10-0 and then 22-7 entering the fourth quarter. Then, of course, they make it close, but no cigar. And then what happened against the San Francisco 49ers? Well, they fall behind 7-0, 10-0, 13-0, and 23-7 going to the fourth quarter, and then they come back and nearly steal it with a miraculous finish to the game. Well, what does that scream to you? No. Fire. You've got a Dan Quinn who turned around the defensive side of the ball spectacularly.
He did.
A guy who was a head coach in Atlanta, who's probably the #1 candidate on everybody's list around the league. He got the Atlanta Falcons to a 28-3 lead over GOAT and Belichick before blowing that, but he did get them that far. He brought energy, he brought life, he brought inspiration to the sideline the night Mike McCarthy had COVID and had to stay back in Dallas. And you're going to lose him. He's going to be able to pick his job. Whatever the best job is, he'll be able to pick it. Why wouldn't you just elevate him, Jerry, as you're about to turn 80 years of age this coming fall on October 13th? Your window is closing. Why wouldn't you just elevate him and take a shot? Because Mike McCarthy got exposed. But my point is, then he was asked a follow-up question about, really? After you won the division and then you're going to play the 49ers, you were nervous? And he said, well, let me take back the word nervous. He said, really, it was just a couple of guys I thought were nervous. A couple of guys? And he's trying to make another excuse like, don't blame me because a couple of my guys were nervous. Well, look what your nervous team did. He said, we settled down and we held them to field goals. Well, Shannon, I just need to reiterate, just to get it out of my system a little bit. It's almost like I'm regurgitating this, like I got to throw it up to get it out of my system. But look what the 49ers did. McCarthy wins the toss, and he says, let's defer. That's the smart way to do it. No, it's not. You take it and you go score on them. They have a devastating run game. Take it away from them. Make them play from behind. No, let's kick it to them. We'll stop them. Guess what? The 49ers make 5 first downs, only once went to second down on the opening 75-yard drive, and go score in 7 plays. 5 first downs, and only it goes to second down 1 time, no third downs, score, and it's 7-0. Congratulations, Mike Mack. And then here we go. Cowboys go 3 and out, and it takes San Francisco 9 plays to make it 10-0. Then we go 5 and out on offense, and it takes them 12 plays to go up 13-0 early in the second quarter. They weren't ready to play. They were not ready to play against Denver or the Raiders or the Cardinals or the 49ers. It screams lack of motivation. What did we see in Hard Knocks? We saw the most pathetic, lame, cliched, embarrassing attempts at motivational speeches from Mike McCarthy. He got exposed by Hard Knocks. And then he tried to boast about his motivational tactics, the one that he used last year up in Minneapolis. He flew in watermelons so that they could take sledgehammers to watermelons the night before the game in the team meeting to get everybody jacked up. That's just silliness to me, and I don't think it had anything to do. I think the players were laughing at him. I think it had zero to do with the game that they stole with Andy Dalton at quarterback at Minneapolis. Then this year, they lose to Denver 30-0. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you, Skip, even if that was the case, let's just say for the sake of argument, what Mike McCarthy is saying is true, that his guys were nervous. Why would you make that public?
After the fact.
Why would they be nervous? Skip, I'm the 3 seed. I got the 6 seed coming to my building. You talked about this home field and how your fans and Jerry wanted to open up the occupancy to all the standing rooms so he'd have over 100,000. What? Skip, you should have known something. The Arizona game, Skip, he wins the Arizona game. He's the 2 seed. Philadelphia now got to come see you. Now you miss San Francisco. San Francisco got to go deal with Tampa. You've already hung 40 on them. You've hung 51 on them. So you feel pretty comfortable, Skip, playing Philadelphia, a team that we played before, a team that we dominated this year on both sides of the football. But no, lo and behold, you lay an egg. You don't come prepared. You come staggering out of the gate, and the next thing you know, they're in front of you, and you're playing catch up. So for me, I agree. Look, Skip, I agree with you. I didn't think he deserved the job anyway. I voiced that to you, said, Skip, I don't think he's the right guy for this job, but Jerry wanted him. And Skip, if Jerry were to fire him now, Jerry would have to admit, I made a mistake in hiring him. Does Jerry Jones strike you as a guy that likes to admit mistakes?
No, he does not. I agree. And usually he stays the course. He prides himself on don't overreact to media pressure. I'm Jerry Jones. I've got 3 Super Bowl trophies in my office. Well, baloney. You're about to turn 80. You keep talking about your mortality. Plunge, Jerry. You used to plunge in the oil fields. And let me finish about the other motivational tactic that, as a Cowboy fan, all-time humiliated me, that they lay an egg. What if they'd beaten Denver and the Raiders at home? Could they be the 1 seed right now?
Well, you're number 1 seed. You're number 1 seed.
No, that's what I got it. I got it. So after the egg they laid, biggest this side of Jurassic Park, against your Broncos, Mike McCarthy, after they roared back and crushed the Atlanta Falcons at home, he took credit. He volunteered to the media that he used what he called monkey butt powder, and the acronym for the week was RAW, a raw week, because we had the red ass. So it's RAW week, and we needed monkey butt powder. He passed it out to all the players to soothe the chapped butt of all the players. Okay. Again, I don't know how you'd react if you were a Dallas Cowboy, but I think you'd be trying to stifle a laugh over that, right? Wouldn't you be embarrassed that your coach was doing this? Because it's just pure silliness. It is beneath the dignity of the coach of America's team to try to resort to that in professional football. And now to your bigger point about Jerry and that one night that he hired McCarthy, remember, he'd never met him, and I think he got blinded by the Super Bowl ring because he had him up to the mansion, Highland Park, Dallas, Texas, for a night, a dinner, meet the sons, meet the family, meet the wife, and they liked the heck out of him. And he came across not so much as a potential son, another son to Jerry, but kind of as a younger brother that he could hang with. And they had a good time talking ball, beer, nachos. It goes into the wee hours, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And to your point, Jerry Jr. finally says, Dad, what are you waiting for? Well, you just met the guy. And all you knew was he's got a Super Bowl ring, right? And what I swept under my carpet was, and I look back at it last night, look at his last 3 years in Green Bay. And remember, I don't care what you say, Aaron Rodgers' stats were plummeting. His QBR and his completion percentage were going down, down, down over those years. They finished sub 500 every year. I think he finished 13, 26, and 1. I believe that was the record over those last 3 years. And remember, he was accused of just mailing it in. Well, it feels like he came to Dallas and mailed it in because getting massages. And once upon a time, back in the day, remember, he's the head coach in Green Bay for 13 years. I used to hear back to the Favre days that he's one of the best play callers in pro football. I heard that from a lot of people around the league. This man can call a game. Well, he comes to Dallas. He doesn't call anything because Kellen Moore is like attached at the hip with Dak, and let's keep his comfort zone with Kellen Moore. And so I don't know what Mike McCarthy does except uninspire my Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how you can let Dan Quinn walk and take another job without saying, just stay here and let's try it again next year with a whole different vibe. Let's get Dan Quinn down on the sidelines with his hat on backwards, slapping everybody on the butt, bringing a little life and energy to the sidelines instead of the innocent bystander who says, don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Well, Skip, you remember Mike McCarthy? One of the reasons Mike McCarthy got the job is that said he had an analytics team and he broke down every single play the Cowboys had run. So he gets to the press conference and a reporter asks him, he's like, Jerry said you broke down all it. Well, that's not really true. I didn't break down all of it. Jerry should have fired him on the spot. You lied. You told me you had an analytics team and you broke down every offensive snap, every defensive snap that we had run. So now you get up here in front of these media and you lied, you're fired. It'd have been shorter than Coach Belichick's tenure at the Jets.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.